I mean, you get nervous here and there when it's going, I don't want to say easy, but when the score is in your favor, it's like you have to be cautious, so a little bit nervous, but obviously I'm super happy to be here in quarters.
Alex Eala gets ROCKSTAR. Welcome at Linz Open 2026. Fans stormed the gates. Mark April 6th on your calendar because Alex Eala gets a ROCKSTAR welcome at Linz Open 2026. And the reason fans stormed the gates of this tournament matters more than the scoreboard. At the Australian Open, organizers halted ground pass sales mid-morning as Filipino supporters flooded the walkways. At Indian Wells, hundreds in fan club shirts were camped outside before the venue opened. Now that wave has crossed the Atlantic into Austria, and a 35-year-old tournament has no framework for what's coming. But here's the layer that makes this week genuinely dangerous for every other player in the draw. Eala arrives at Linz with 0 ranking points to defend, meaning every single win converts directly into net gain. A semi-final run pulls her back inside the top 30. A runner-up finish reaches a career best, number 26. A title pushes her to number 23, past Raducanu and Zheng Qinwen in the live standings. She has admitted clay is her most underdeveloped surface. Alexandrova has already beaten her twice this season. Opponents have spent months dissecting her game. The ROCKSTAR reception gets the crowd on their feet, but the ranking math, the surface liability, and the draw itself will decide whether this week becomes a breakthrough or an expensive lesson. Subscribe for forensic coverage that tracks every variable. Let's break down exactly what Eala is walking into. The Design Center Linz has hosted professional women's tennis since 1987. 35 editions of this tournament have come and gone, most of them decided by a handful of European regulars competing in front of polite, modest crowds in a mid-sized Austrian city. Nothing in that history prepared this tournament for what Alexandra Eala is about to drag through its doors in April 2026. To understand the scale of what is coming, you have to trace the pattern backward, because Linz did not create this phenomenon. It inherited it. The first time the tennis world genuinely registered what Filipino fandom looked like at full volume was Melbourne, January 2026. Eala was assigned to Court 6 for her first-round Australian Open debut against American Alicia Parks. Court 6 is not a showcase court. Tournament schedulers, working from seedings and past results, made what looked like a routine decision. Before Eala walked out to warm up, the court was packed beyond its operational limit. Hundreds more were turned away at the entrance. Organizers paused ground pass sales as supporters flooded walkways and bottlenecked outer corridors. Filipino flags covered the stands. Signs reading "Laban Alex," "Fight Alex" in Tagalog, were visible from every camera angle. Parks later admitted the atmosphere affected her concentration in the opening set, losing it 6-0 without winning a game. She recovered to take the match, but the story that went global was not the result. It was the crowd. Martina Navratilova publicly stated the Australian Open had made a scheduling error. The BBC reported that thousands of Filipinos had created a logjam outside the venue, with queues stretching several hundred yards through Melbourne Park. For a first-round match at a mid-tier court against an unseeded player that had never happened before. Then came Indian Wells in March, where hundreds of supporters in matching Alexandra Eala fan club shirts arrived hours before gates opened, Filipino flags in hand, waiting in the California desert cold. The BNP Paribas Open posted a day-in-the-life video featuring Eala that became the most viewed piece of content the tournament uploaded all year, and it was not close. Jessica Pegula, ranked number 5 in the world, framed the broader reality plainly after playing Eala in Miami the previous year. She had been expecting a standard match. What she walked into was a stadium that felt entirely hostile despite being on American soil. Novak Djokovic asked about the congestion and scheduling problems Eala's presence was creating for tournaments, called it a good problem to have. Andy Roddick went further, saying it was exactly the kind of story tennis needed. Linz is next. Unlike Melbourne or Indian Wells, this venue has never hosted anything remotely like what is coming, and the tournament has no operational framework for a fan base that moves across continents to fill buildings that were never designed to hold them. Strip away the crowd story and look purely at the competitive arithmetic, because it is extraordinary on its own terms. Eala arrived at Linz ranked approximately number 45 after her fourth-round exit at the 2026 Miami Open. That drop happened because the 390 ranking points she earned by reaching the Miami semifinals in 2025 expired simultaneously with her 2026 campaign. Replacing them with only 120 points from this year's round of 16 finish produced a net loss of 270 points. From a career best of number 29, she fell to around 45th in the live rankings. At Linz, nothing expires. She was not competing anywhere during this tournament week in 2025, which means every point she earns here adds directly to her total without any offset. Reaching the quarterfinal delivers 108 points, useful, but not enough to materially shift her trajectory. The semifinal threshold is where the math changes. 195 points pulls her back inside the top 30 and erases most of the damage from Miami. Beyond that, a runner-up finish generates 325 points and projects her to a career best number 26, surpassing Zheng Qinwen in the live standings. Winning the entire tournament delivers the full 500 points, lifting her to approximately number 23, past Emma Raducanu, who currently holds that position with 1,680 ranking points. This is not a routine ranking opportunity. The clay court swing that follows, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros, arrives loaded with points to defend for the top seeds. Eala's 2025 clay season produced minimal accumulation. She reached the round of 16 at the WTA 125 level WTA Open, exited in the round of 64 at Madrid, fell in the round of 128 in Rome, and lost in the first round at Roland Garros. Her overall clay record across those 4 events was 2 wins and 4 losses. The entire upcoming swing is essentially clean. Build, not defend. But whether she can actually perform on the surface is where the analysis gets complicated. Eala has never hidden from the clay question. After Miami, speaking to reporters ahead of her departure for Austria, she said directly that clay was the surface where she had the most room for improvement and that she was genuinely excited to find out how the season would unfold. That is an honest answer. It is also an implicit acknowledgement that she is not yet optimized for what slower conditions demand. Hard courts let her dictate before rallies develop. Clay removes that option. Balls sit up, opponents reset, and the margin on her first serve compresses considerably. Brad Gilbert, assessing her Miami defeat to Karolina Muchova, pointed to serve efficiency as a critical area requiring dramatic improvement. She won only 39% of first serve points in that match. On red dirt, where first serve pressure becomes even more critical for players without a natural power advantage in height or wingspan, sustaining that number against top 15 opponents is extremely difficult. Her best result at a full WTA clay event remains a second-round finish in Madrid in 2024, when she defeated Lesia Tsurenko before falling to Sorana Cirstea. That is the ceiling of her confirmed tour-level clay performance heading into this week. The gap between that result and a Linz semi-final is not small. Eala enters unseeded, meaning she has no protected section of the bracket. Alexandrova, who won the most recent edition of this tournament in February 2025, enters as the top seed. Their Abu Dhabi quarterfinal earlier this season ended 6-3 in the Russians' favor. A controlled, technically dominant win. Alexandrova's game is built for slower conditions, heavy baseline ball striking, deep patterns that push opponents behind the baseline, and movement that improves rather than deteriorates on clay. Having beaten Eala twice already in 2026, she arrives at Linz with established tactical confidence against this specific opponent. Clara Tauson, expected to be among the top seeds, knows Eala's game from their 2025 US Open meeting, the match where Eala became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match in the Open era. That result was on hard courts at night in New York, with a charged crowd and atmospheric conditions that do not transfer to an indoor Austrian clay court. Tauson, who has spent years competing on European clay, holds a structural familiarity with this surface that the US Open result does not negate. Jelena Ostapenko is also in the draw. Her flat, high-risk ball striking creates the kind of unpredictability that no ranking or preparation fully accounts for on any given day. Beyond specific opponents, the broader competitive environment has shifted against Eala in a way she has acknowledged directly. On Roddick's Served podcast, she noted that opponents now arrive with detailed preparation, footage studied, patterns identified, tendencies mapped. At Indian Wells, Dubai, and Miami, she faced game plans that did not exist 18 months ago when she was ranked outside the top 100. Linz will be no different. The ROCKSTAR reception fills the stands with supporters. What happens between the lines is decided by the preparation on the other side of the net. There is a version of this story where the crowd noise operates as a pure competitive asset. Eala's record in front of packed pro-Filipino audiences demonstrates she can convert that energy into performance under pressure. At the 2026 Philippine Women's Open in Manila, she battled through a match-point deficit. Against Alexandra Saznovich, clawing back from 0 to 4 down in the deciding set to win in nearly 3 hours. She told the crowd afterward that competing in sold-out conditions in those kinds of matches were the moments that stayed with her most. The Australian Open showed the other edge of that dynamic. The atmosphere at Court 6 was so intense that the loss, afterward, carried a specific weight she described as overwhelming, because she knew exactly how many people had made sacrifices to be in that building. Carrying the expectations of a national fan base into a debut clay season tournament while managing a simultaneous rankings drop and surface transition is a pressure profile that very few players on tour have been asked to handle at 20 years old. Linz is the first time she faces all of those variables together on a court where she has no established record of success. The fans who stormed the gates of this tournament, the same fans who paralyzed Court 6 in Melbourne and filled the California desert stands in March, will be louder than anything the Design Center has heard in 35 years of competition. Whether that noise lifts her or weighs on her is the question only the matches themselves can answer. The Linz Open 2026 is not a transitional event for Alex Eala. It is a diagnostic one. The ranking math makes this the cleanest points opportunity of her entire clay swing. The draw is unforgiving. The conditions expose gaps she has openly admitted exist. The ROCKSTAR reception has followed her across 2 continents. Linz is next. And what happens inside this building over the next 7 days will tell the tennis world more about where Eala's 2026 season is genuinely heading than any previous result this year. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of what Eala is actually walking into at Linz, subscribe now and hit the bell. Every week of this clay season, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros, this channel will track the ranking math, the surface data, and the tactical shifts that mainstream coverage moves past too quickly. The next 6 weeks will define where this season lands. Do not miss a single breakdown.